Madam Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to take the floor to provide my response to the President, His Excellency Major General Retired Choti Konrote's address at the opening of this session. Madam Speaker, I fully support the message His Excellency sought to impart to us, and my ministries will continuously to strive to meet the high expectations set out by His Excellency for the next half of our term. His Excellency's statement, Madam Speaker, not only covered the progress made by this government, but also what we have achieved in this Parliament. Madam Speaker, Fiji, as it exists today, is a dynamic island economy that leads the region in development and consistently punches above its weight on the international stage. A decade ago, Madam Speaker, that was not the case. But under the leadership of our Honourable Prime Minister, today Fiji and the Fijian people stand stronger than ever before. And today we can celebrate a record 7 straight years of economic growth. Today we can stand united, Madam Speaker, as never before in our history. And today, Madam Speaker, it is safe to say that Fiji is finally winning. Earlier this year, Madam Speaker, we saw how strong we can be when we stand together, as we did when confronting the challenge of Cyclone Winston. And we can see how unified we are in times of celebration, as we saw after our Rugby Sevens gold victory. A victory that truly showed the world what our nation is capable of. And Fiji, Madam Speaker, has illuminated the world. Madam Speaker, it is sad to see that even when surrounded by such displays of unity and such stark evidence of our unprecedented economic success, the other side of the House, and I mean that particular side of the House, refuses to accept that Fiji is on the right track. They still rely on offensive and divisive political tactics to distract the Fijian people from future opportunities and to bolster their own political standings. Madam Speaker, Fiji's development suffered for many years due to the same fear-mongering tactics peddled by the opposition today. And in the historic 2014 general elections, it was the Fijian people who said loudly and clearly that those days are over. The opposition, Madam Speaker, cannot accept that they were not chosen. They cannot respect the will of our people, and they simply cannot acknowledge that our nation is on a path of prosperity, a path that was forged by the unrelenting efforts of this government. Members of the opposition, Madam Speaker, attack our 2013 Constitution. They call it a sham, and they claim that it does not belong to the Fijian people. Yet let us not forget, it was under that Constitution that we held our 2014 general elections. And it was in those elections that the Fijian people voted overwhelmingly for Fiji First in support of that very same Constitution. So, Madam Speaker, again, there is a disconnect between the members on that side of the House and the will of our people. Madam Speaker, Honourable Bulitavu stated on Monday that the Fiji First government only works for its supporters. Another deliberate falsehood. Our Prime Minister's vision for this country is rooted in inclusion. And that isn't just rhetoric, Madam Speaker. He has personally visited villages all over Fiji and opened numerous development projects for ordinary Fijians, regardless of how they have voted. And I was proud to join him on many occasions, Madam Speaker. This government understands that the more Fijians we bring into the mainstream, the more people we educate, the opportunities we create, the better off our nation will be. We have policies in place, Madam Speaker, designed to boost development in the North. Policies that have an equal impact on our people, regardless of where they call home or their political affiliation. Madam Speaker, it is an all too common theme for members of the opposition to attempt to deceive our citizens, including the Itoke community, into believing that their rights are in any way under threat. It hasn't worked before, Madam Speaker, and yet we saw the same tactic deployed again at the start of this session. On Monday, Madam Speaker, Honourable Dulaki Wirata claimed that the government is not providing landowners with their fair share of royalties. And I have to ask, has this honourable member actually read the Constitution? Has he seen that for the first time in our history, Madam Speaker, we have a Constitution that enshrines the rights of landowners to earn fair and equitable royalties on the extraction of minerals from their land? It is there, Madam Speaker. I assure you it is there. It is there as clear as day. The protections, Madam Speaker, are in place. Listen, my friend. And we are currently formulating laws to identify the processes for the payment of royalties. A mineral development committee has already been established consisting of the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, the Ministry of Itoke Affairs Board, the TLTVB, and the Ministry of Economy. All royalties, Madam Speaker, are in a trust fund. And once the committee has completed consultations and the laws are finalized, all monies will be fairly distributed to landowners, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government has also successfully given Fijians living in informal settlements on state land security of tenure and a stable future. The Ministry of Lands has identified 64 informal settlements, 15 of which have been surveyed with 496 lots. Of these lots, 233 approval notices have been approved to date, and 13 informal settlements have been earmarked for survey in the upcoming financial year. Madam Speaker, there are few comforts in life greater than the peace of mind that your future is secure. And it is this government that has provided that peace of mind across informal settlements for the very first time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, not only does the opposition fail to recognize our economic achievement, we have actually seen cases where they have actively worked against Fiji's economic interest. Madam Speaker, Honourable Biman Prasad and Honourable Viliami Gavoka have both misinformed, disingenuous comments to the media regarding Fiji's trade with PNG. Without bothering to confirm any information with my ministry, these honourable members both decided that Fiji's interests were not their own. They opted to dispense with the facts and instead try and score cheap political points in their attempt to cause undue panic within our business community. Well, Madam Speaker, the facts are these.
Point of order.
I think the honourable member is misleading the Parliament. On the dispute between Fiji and Papua New Guinea, Madam Speaker, I said very clearly that any dispute between the two countries would be mutually harmful. That's not undermining Fiji. That's actually supporting. I think he's misleading the Parliament on what I said, Madam.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Point of order is on an issue that the Speaker is able to make a ruling on and not on the content of speeches. Honourable Minister, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the facts are these, and please listen. This government, Madam Speaker, is pro-business. We work extensively with our private sector partners to drive economic development, and there has never been a ban or unnecessary restriction on food imports from Papua New Guinea. Madam Speaker, it is our duty to protect our shores from threats to our people, our animals, and our plant life. Any issues arising from this need to go through the appropriate frameworks. And that is exactly what Fiji and PNG are doing. We are having a constructive dialogue so that we can satisfy both our biosecurity and health requirements. From the tone, Madam Speaker, taken by the members of this opposition on this particular issue, you would think that they had forgotten that it is to the Fijian people that they owe their duty. It is the safety of the Fijian people that is paramount, Madam Speaker, and it is the Fijian economy that we must all work to promote. Madam Speaker, it is Fiji that must come before the personal and political agendas of all members of this parliament. It hurts. Madam Speaker, we saw similar irresponsible and unverifiable statements coming from the opposition concerning Fiji's stand on PESA Plus negotiations. Falling victim to inaccurate reporting, members of the opposition again sought to undermine Fiji's position. Again, it was their own political positions that took priority over the interests of our people. Madam Speaker, the PESA Plus negotiations are still open. Fiji is actively involved, and we will continue to push for an agreement that recognizes Fiji's development challenges and that it is flexible enough to suit our needs. Madam Speaker, when the members of this House make such ill-informed statements on the trade issues that affect our people, it is Fiji's international reputation that suffers. There is an expectation, Madam Speaker, that members of Parliament have a grasp of these issues. And when that isn't the case, it reflects poorly on all of us. Madam Speaker, under this government, Itoke landowners who have deposited their land with the Land Bank have received a total of $6.6 million in revenue. A total of 82 land parcels have been deposited, of which 36 leases have been issued, Madam Speaker. We will continue to work diligently to ensure that the Itoke receive the full benefit of their land ownership and are equal beneficiaries under government's other programs and initiatives, because it is in our constitution that no Fijian be left out of our progress and development. This is evident by our very successful micro and small business grant scheme, Madam Speaker, and the Integrated Human Resource Development Program and the Northern Development Program. In the first year of implementation, a total of 5,853 people were assisted through the grant scheme, Madam Speaker, directly and indirectly improving the lives of 29,265 Fijians. Madam Speaker, for the 2012-2015 period, a total of $3.72 million was allocated to implement the IHRDP, and as of the 31st of December 2015, $3.55 million, or 97% of that was actually utilized. Over that period, the program created 1,659 new jobs and had a positive impact on 6,806 Fijians. In 2015, the NDP assisted in 117 projects with a total value of $803,822.07. The NDP, Madam Speaker, since its inception in January 2008, has funded 1,915 projects with a total value in grants of $6.9 billion, with a total value from the lenders of $7.8 million, and those 1,915 projects, 84% are currently underway. Madam Speaker, approximately 33% of the IHRDP budget allocation has been set aside also for rehabilitation work projects that were badly affected by Cyclone Winston. Many of these projects were located in the red zone areas, and we will be undertaking a similar exercise to rehabilitate beneficiaries under the NDP. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, to enable Fijians affected by the cyclone to fully reclaim their livelihoods, we have, with the assistance of the Indian government, allocated $4.7 million for the Micro and Small Business Grant Scheme. The expressions of interest for new applicants close next month. In this financial year, government committed $6.4 million towards the rehabilitation of micro and small businesses affected by Cyclone Winston, so that we can get these enterprises back into operation as quickly as possible. To determine the extent of damages to our grant recipients, Madam Speaker, we have conducted assessments in Bua, Savsavu, Taviuni, Tailevu North, Lautoka, Ba, Tavua, Vatukola, and Reki. These assessments involved site visits to verify damages and to determine the monetary value of the losses. We anticipate also, Madam Speaker, that at least 2,800 recipients of last year's grant will need support to get back on their feet, and that support is set to be distributed in November this year. By taking the IHRDP and NDP under the ministry, we are poised to create a fully fledged micro and small Indian enterprises apex body to oversee all our support efforts to the MSME community. Madam Speaker, as I stated in the budget session of Parliament, the MSME apex body will consolidate all programs and projects related to the sector and work to solve common issues such as access to finance, market access, and issues relating to economies of scale, and also to help build capacity among the recipients. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism is advertising for consultancy services to establish a central coordinating agency for micro and small medium enterprise, and the consultancy will undertake a diagnostic review of the MSME landscape in Fiji, developing an MSME framework, formulate MSME development legislation, and establish the MSME Central Coordination Agency. The report will be submitted in January 2017, with the MSME framework projected to be prepared by February 2017. In the 2016-2017 budget, government launched another innovative strategy, Madam Speaker, to diversify our economic base so that we aren't overly reliant on one or two sectors. And to this end, an allocation of $500 million has been set aside to grow our manufacturing and services zone in the Western Division. We've started with the feasibility studies on sites, and we have already identified 2 sites in Lautoka, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the 2 ministries are working together to also conduct geotech studies of these particular sites as well. The services zone will support Fiji's strong position as a regional hub for trade and commerce, and on that note, I'd like to review some of the highlights of Fiji's performance in trade. Government has also put in place various initiatives to grow our economic pie, Madam Speaker, and particularly in our tourism sector. There is a positive step towards long-term sustainability, and yet it is a step the opposition have completely failed to grasp. For instance, Madam Speaker, the Fiji International is currently playing a key role in developing golf tourism in Fiji, a lucrative subset of the tourism market. On average, Madam Speaker, our golfer spends about $6,000 a week compared to the average tourist who spends $1,000. So clearly, this is a market worth targeting. And $32 million was generated, Madam Speaker, in gross media value by the Fiji International and Tourism Fiji brand in the 2015 tournament across a wide range of international markets, and up to 90% from last year, with another 1.5 million generated through spending by our visiting participants and 1.5 million spent by the PGA Australia contracting services from local companies. So this particular niche market, Madam Speaker, is growing. And thanks to government's investment, we will continue to see even greater returns on the back of impressive results we have achieved so far. It's also, just on a short note, Madam Speaker, it's also interesting to note that the tourism-related tax proposal for the opposition changes from one being the benefit to the workers in the tourism industry and now a particular tax for the landowners. If I could coin a phrase from my brother minister, flip-flop politics, rather flop politics I think it is a very appropriate description. Government is planning for the future, Madam Speaker, and we are seeking these opportunities, and opportunities that translate into well-paying jobs for our people and make Fiji an even bigger draw for tourists from around the world. It is disappointing, Madam Speaker, that this particular vision is not shared by the opposition. But, Madam Speaker, it is hardly surprising given their record pushing policies that look to the past and ignore the development opportunities. We are also, Madam Speaker, developing sports tourism in other areas, particularly in rugby. We have formed a strategic partnership with Super Rugby, and we hope not only to bring more international rugby games and fans to our shores, but one day place a Fijian team in the Super Rugby fixture. Madam Speaker, as mentioned by His Excellency, Cyclone Winston was followed by a countrywide relief and rehabilitation program to tend to the immediate needs of affected Fijians. And now that we are in rebuilding phase, my ministry has been closely working with our partners to improve building codes and standards of building materials. The ministry, together with FERCA, has increased border control measures for imports to ensure that only high-standard roofing coils and cyclonic screws enter the Fijian market. And the Fijian Building Standards Committee has already recommended additional amendments to the roofing and wall cladding standards and standards for wind load for housing. Madam Speaker, as stated by His Excellency the President, I hope that all of us remember that we are responsible to the people who have put us here. It is a disservice to the Fijian people when we spread misinformation. It is a disservice when we incite hatred and mistrust between our people. And it is a disservice, Madam Speaker, when we put our own interests above the interests of the country. In the words of our President, Madam Speaker, let us rededicate ourselves to the task of continuing to rejuvenate our nation and giving it the sense of direction and purpose that this nation deserves, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Thank you once again for allowing me this opportunity to provide my response to the address of His Excellency, and I strongly support the vision that he laid out and aspire to meet the high standards he set for us as elected representatives. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and God bless Fiji and this Honourable House.